Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Hockey Report, the New York Hockey Report, that is. I am Joe Soccoa, and we welcome you listening on every platform that there is and we have to offer. So it's been a little bit, but we are back with you here, and of course we're talking about the local hockey teams and where they stand right now. It has not been a very good month, at least, for the three local teams, where the Rangers and Islanders and Devils all have not been playing very good hockey. Right now, the way the Metropolitan Division sets up, the Islanders are in fourth place with a record of 13-11-3, good for 29 points. The New York Rangers sit tied with them in points with a 13-12-3 record, and the Devils are unfortunately in the basement of the Metropolitan Division, sitting at a record of 10-12-5. That's 25 points, so they are tied with the Philadelphia Flyers in that retrospect. So it just really has not been good for all of the teams, and especially in the last 10. The Islanders and Rangers both 4-5-1 in their last 10. The Devils 2-4-4 in their last 10. So really just has not been good hockey being played amongst the three local teams. We start with the New York Rangers, and that's because they've been on a 5-day break. They get things going and begin their Florida trip tomorrow in Sunrise, where they'll take on the Florida Panthers, and then they'll go over and play Tampa Bay. Fortunately for them, the Florida Panthers are also struggling at their part of the season. They sit at a .500 record of 11-11-5, good for 27 points on the season. But the 5-day break, I think, was a blessing in disguise if you are the New York Rangers. Kind of gave them a little bit of time to get healthy, of course, because Nemestikov hasn't been playing. Zuccarello has been on and off not playing. So they're getting a little bit healthier, which is good news on their part. And also just trying to tinker some things, because there have been some games that just have not looked good. I think one of the games you could probably sit there and talk about was the game against the Winnipeg Jets, in where they carried a 3-0 game into the third period and blew that one and lost in overtime to the Winnipeg Jets. And the Jets actually came in and swept all three of the local teams, because they did the same thing. They were trailing in the third period to the Islanders and came back and won that game. So it just hasn't been good for the Rangers, and I'm sure, David Quinn, who is emphasizing on the little things, is talking about how they need to get back to their winning ways, because it was looking good for a little bit. It was looking as if the Rangers were going to be a pleasant surprise for everybody, and then things kind of just phased out a little bit, and that's where I think the 5 days kind of got them to reset and see what they needed to do and really get things going. So the 5 days off is just about over, of course, and they're going to get back on the ice, and there's really no excuse. I think when you have a team coming off of a 5-day break, there really is no excuse to come out of the gates really slow, and especially that they're kind of craving for a win here. We gave you those numbers, just 4-5-1 in their last 10 games. That's just not good hockey. And, there are times where they are playing very good and they're just not getting the results. And then there were times we were looking at it where, they were on a 4-game win streak and things looked really promising for the team, and there were a lot of smiles and the room was kind of loose. So, interesting to see what goes on. Of course, there's going to be still some questions going into the game tomorrow. Who is going to be available to play, who's not yet cleared to play. But as of this morning, when practice got underway, a lot of the beat writers sitting there and reporting, talking about that everybody who's been hurt was on the ice. They were in full contact jerseys. Normally if there's no contact, they'd be wearing a red jersey. They didn't see much of that going around. So, and we take a look at it. It's the Rangers and the Florida Panthers, the game preview. Rangers, as we mentioned, 13-12-3, 29 points. The Panthers 11-11-5, 27 points. It'll be the 29th game of the season. The Rangers have earned at least 1 point in 12 of their last 17 games, 15 in the last 23, and 16 of the last 25. It's going to be the third of 3 meetings between the Rangers and Panthers. So the season series will be over after tomorrow. The Rangers are 2-0, and those 2 games happened back at Madison Square Garden, so this will be the lone road game they have against Florida. And so, of course, that'll be, again, the last meeting of the season between the 2 teams. And look, Lundqvist has been playing out of this world, and I don't know how many times that when we go through these reports and we talk about certain players and we go back and forth with these players and who's kind of standing out, it's always going to be Henrik Lundqvist. And it might sound a little biased in certain ways, but Lundqvist has been the key to the New York Rangers. And there are a lot of people out there who sat there and said that he was washed up and he was not going to be as good as many people expected, and he could be on the decline. So many negative things talked about when it came to Lundqvist. He has been the best Ranger player thus far. He has looked better than most of the last few seasons, where he looks a little bit quicker. He looks as if he is doing everything that he needs to do to keep his team in the game to win. And he was spectacular in the Winnipeg Jets game, but the problem is the Winnipeg Jets are a relentless team where once they got themselves going, and Henrik Lundqvist talked about that in that postgame after that once they came at him and scored that first goal, they just kept coming and coming, and it was too much for the New York Rangers to handle. And if you're going to be a successful team, and if you're going to be a team that goes up against these big-time teams, now granted, we all know what the expectations was coming into the season for the New York Rangers, but if you expect to win against teams like that, there needs to be a better effort, and you need to know how to respond to the way that the Jets came out and absolutely brutalized the Rangers in that third period against them. So, Henrik Lundqvist was right in a sense that, they just kept on coming and they were relentless, and the Rangers did not do a good job, and that's just signs of a bad team not getting the job done and not being able to close out the game. And we've seen it over and over again this season, that there's 28 games into the season. I believe there's more than a handful of games in which the Rangers have not been able to close out a game. And then when you have a 3-0, lead over a very good Western Conference team like the Winnipeg Jets, you're feeling good about it, but at the same time, you need to be prepared for anything and everything, and they weren't. So a lot of things seem to not go the Rangers' way in that aspect when trying to get the job done and also trying to win and beat the Winnipeg Jets. So they had the 5 days off, kind of regroup themselves, kind of get a couple of days off to get some guys healthy, maybe take your mind away from hockey a little bit, because some athletes need that mental rest and things like that. And then the break seems really good for the Rangers at this point, considering that they were struggling a little bit. So it's kind of like almost that fresh start going into then a new set of games. And then again, it gets underway tomorrow in Florida. Moving over to the New York Islanders here on the New York Hockey Report. You look at the Islanders and you sit there and say, all right, they got a young team, but they do have some really good pieces on the team. It's just not been as consistent as you want it to see, and Barry Trotz knows it. He is frustrated with certain guys, and he knows that this team is capable of playing way better than what they have been playing. Same boat as the Rangers, 4-5-1 in their last 10. Things just have not been going their way at all. And the thing is it's up and down with them. At least with the Rangers and even with the Devils to an aspect, you're struggling, but you'd get a really good game from the Islanders, and then you come out in the next game and it's not a good one. You go back to, which was also another great thing, the first game played back at the Nassau Coliseum since, of course, the Islanders left there a couple of years ago. And the venue, of course, was refixed, more fitted for concerts and things like that. But they were back home, and it was an electric atmosphere. It was sold out. The crowd was loud. The Islanders fed off of that, and they had probably one of their better games of the season. And you can hear the passion behind even the postgame with Barry Trotz and saying that this was just unbelievable, an unbelievable atmosphere. So you have a game like that, and then you come out and then throw a couple of stinkers in a row. That's just not good hockey. That's not consistent hockey. And the Islanders know that they have a better team than what they're putting out there and the results that are coming out on the ice. So it's just a matter of getting them some sort of consistency and having things kind of go their way and get that right bounce. You know, they're getting the goaltending, which has been better, but Greiss did not look so great against the Jets. Again, you look at the game against the Jets where they had a lead and things just didn't, come together for them and they just couldn't hold on. So just a lot of things that need to be worked on, and it's almost the same boat as the New York Rangers where just trying to get out of this funk, but the coaches know that there is a lot of talent on these teams and where things can absolutely be capable of turning it around. Then you have the New Jersey Devils, where they started off the season in Europe, where a lot of people, you sit there and you speak to people around the league and how, starting in Europe is kind of like a tough task because of, the mindset and getting ready for those type of games. You're in a different country, in a different time zone, things like that. It was good to start, but then things kind of fell off a little bit for the Devils. And as I mentioned, we're looking at them and they're at the bottom of the Metropolitan right now at 10, 12, and 5. They're not getting the goaltending that they wanted to. Schneider was hurt for a little bit. They're just not getting the offensive production. Kyle Palmieri, who was the goal scorer, getting things going for them off the bat, he kind of slowed up a little bit. So things right now for the New Jersey Devils just are not looking so great. And you have to wonder if this was something that, Ray Shero, the general manager, kind of envisioned, because we kind of looked at the Devils last year, made the playoffs, had Taylor Hall, who was the MVP of the league, and it just hasn't come together for this team yet. And you have to wonder, what is it going to take? Does Ray Shero have to start shaking things up a little bit to maybe get a response? It's not the coach and John Hines by any means. It's just a matter of getting consistency out of these players, and that's unfortunately what they're not getting. They are not getting the consistency. I mean, Taylor Hall has 8 goals and 22 assists. He leads the team with 30 points. And then you got Palmieri, who's got 14 goals and 10 assists. But the next guys behind them are Zajac and Coleman with 9 goals each. So they're not getting the production that they need. Kincaid has played the majority of this season, of course, because Schneider has been hurt. Kincaid is 10-7. Goals against is a 2.94. Schneider has not looked good in the 7 games that he's played. In the 5 games that he started, he's still searching for a win. Doesn't have it. And this is not the Corey Schneider we all know and what he's all capable of doing. You go back to 2 years ago when Schneider was acquired and brought in, he had probably some of the best numbers. He just didn't have a team in front of him. Then, Ray Shero comes in, kind of restructures things around a little bit, and this team makes the playoffs, and everything looked good. And we kind of saw, all right, you know what? This was a good step. They were playing with house money, if you will. And you figured coming into this season they would build on that, and right now it looks like they've taken about 3 or 4 steps back. So it's just not rolling the way it needs to, so you have to wonder if the Devils are going to be in a position where Ray Shero might have to shake things up. It's a little bit different from the perspective of the Islanders and Rangers, because we know that the Rangers are in rebuild mode, and they're also playing with house money this year because there was no high expectation with it. So Jeff Gorton doesn't have to go out and make a move that he needs to go out and improve this team. There are a couple of guys on this Rangers team that are going to be trade assets, but the difference, what I'm saying is, with the Devils is, this is a team who exceeded expectations last year, and you're building a core and you're trying to get a good defensive core. You got a mixture of a couple of good offensive players. You'd want to add to that, not subtract from that. So you have to wonder, is if we get closer here to now the holiday freeze that, of course, comes up around Christmas time where deals won't be made, we might see some trade activity leading up to the holiday freeze, and you have to wonder if the Devils would be a team that could be candidates for making a deal of some sort to just kind of get a little jolt into that lineup. So, it'll be interesting to see where they go. The Devils should be a lot better than what they are. They're not sitting in the basement certainly is not going to hold over easy for this team. So it's definitely going to be interesting looking forward. So a lot of good things,